5 biblical principles for resolving family conflict this Thanksgiving. And it's actually pretty good. This came out last year. Number 1, seek peace and pursue it. And she quotes Psalm 34:14, and in the King James, it actually says that, seek peace and pursue it. I love that point. I love that verse. She says this principle is vital in resolving family conflicts since peace doesn't happen by accident. She's right. Often conflicts with families are allowed to fester because people avoid addressing underlying issues or hope that time will naturally heal the wounds. However, this verse encourages intentionality. We are not only to avoid evil and wrongdoing, but to actively chase after peace, which requires humility, patience, and effort. I love that point. That's really true. That's really fantastic. She says, in a family setting, seeking peace means proactively mending broken relationships. It involves taking the first step to address unresolved tensions, even if it's uncomfortable. When we're committed to peace, we don't wait for the other person to initiate reconciliation. Instead, we take the initiative, motivated by love and a desire for harmony. Pursuing peace requires setting aside our pride. Often, family conflicts are rooted in unmet expectations, misunderstandings, or hurt feelings. Rather than allowing these grievances to grow into resentment, we need to have open, honest conversations. I say it's not necessarily required that every grievance and issue has to be discussed. Show grace. Hal often talks about auto flush. You remember? When it comes to forgiveness, should be instant, automatic, the moment that offense occurs. Instant forgiveness. And then she writes that Thanksgiving or finding private time during a Thanksgiving gathering for a heart-to-heart conversation, it's important to remember that seeking peace is not about winning an argument or proving who is right. It's about restoring relationships, pursuing unity. This Thanksgiving, consider how you can actively pursue peace in your family. Is there someone you need to forgive or ask for forgiveness from? Is there a conversation you've been avoiding that needs to take place? Love that paragraph. That was fantastic. Seek peace and pursue it. That's great. All right, number 2. Quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. Quoting, of course, James 1:19, and from a really bad translation. Let me quote the actual verse. James 1:19. Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. That slow to speak part, that's something I definitely have to work on. Now, the point she makes here, this is valuable advice for resolving conflicts, especially in the emotionally charged environment of a family gathering. This verse encourages us to be intentional in our responses, emphasizing the importance of listening carefully, speaking thoughtfully, and controlling our anger. These behaviors are essential for de-escalating tensions and preventing conflicts from spiraling out of control. Being quick to listen means actively listening to understand rather than just preparing to respond or waiting to respond. I know when I worked in the complaint department, and I know this was a tactic it's a tactic for many in debates. Before you even put up an argument and argue against someone, there should be a period of discovery where you spend time just asking questions and trying to fully comprehend as much as you can that person's position. Why? How? What verses would they use to support that? How do you just fully understand that position before you start making arguments against it, or giving pushback or challenging that thinking. I would have a period of if I had somebody with a big complaint, I would have a period of discovery, trying to fully and completely understand what was going on. Then tell them I'll do my homework, and then respond to them, usually with an offer. And that always worked. It's better, rather than be quick to argue with somebody when you're still in the process of explaining everything that happened. It's bad. That usually doesn't go well. And I think even in personal relationships, that's just a great practice to have in your life. Just ask questions, understand where that person's coming from before you start making arguments against it or giving it pushback. That way, at least they know they have been heard, rather than thinking that you are, you don't care what they say or think, and you're just waiting to respond because you only care about what you're saying to them. She says, when we practice the discipline of listening first, we demonstrate respect for the other person and open the door for meaningful dialogue. Slow to speak reminds us that our words have power to heal or harm. Quickly reacting without thinking about our words can escalate a conflict, but carefully chosen words can bring clarity and peace. During Thanksgiving gatherings, it's easy to get caught up in heated discussions about sensitive topics like politics, parenting, or past grievances. If the conversation turns to emotionally charged topics, it's wise to pause before speaking to make sure that our words are constructive rather than destructive. A well-timed pause can prevent unnecessary arguments and promote understanding. Finally, slow to anger, encourages us to manage our emotions. Anger is a natural response to frustration or hurt, but when left unchecked, anger can lead to sin and division. God calls us to practice self-control, particularly in stressful situations. If a conversation becomes heated during your Thanksgiving celebration, take a moment to breathe, calm your emotions, and choose to respond with grace rather than anger. This approach can diffuse the situation and keep the focus on building relationships, not tearing them down. I love that. You could see something like that in the Deborah Johnson article. It's so good. The next one. Forgive, the Lord forgive you. Colossians 3:13, from a bad translation. Let me read it from the King James. Forbearing one another and forgiving one another, if any man have a quarrel against any, even as Christ forgave you, so also do ye. I love that. She says the forgiveness is central to resolving family conflicts, and Colossians 3:13 highlights this vital biblical principle in any family. Offenses are inevitable because people hurt each other, either intentionally or unintentionally. But this verse challenges us to forgive, not based on the other person's merit, but because we have been forgiven by God. Forgive as the Lord forgave you is a powerful reminder of the grace we have received. None of us deserve God's forgiveness, and yet God extends it freely through Jesus. In the same way, we are called to extend forgiveness to others, even when they don't ask for it or don't seem to deserve it. And this is especially relevant in family dynamics where grudges and unresolved issues can linger for years. Forgiveness does not mean condoning wrong behavior or pretending that nothing happened. Instead, it means you're releasing the bitterness and resentment that can keep you chained to the past. I love that line. Forgiveness means you are releasing the bitterness and resentment that can keep you chained to the past. When we forgive, we free ourselves from the burden of anger and allow healing to take place in our hearts. And in the context of family, forgiveness is often the key that unlocks the door to reconciliation and restored relationships. So she says that this Thanksgiving, as you gather with family, consider if there is someone you need to forgive. It might be a sibling who hurt you years ago, a parent who failed to meet your expectations, or another family member whose words or actions have caused you pain. Holding on to these grudges only fuels division, but by choosing to forgive, you reflect God's grace and mercy, and you pave the way for peace in your family. I love that. This lady, she did a really nice job here. Whitney Hopler is her name. A soft answer turns away wrath. Love this. Love this. The verse she cites is Proverbs 15:1. A soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger. What a phenomenal verse that is. A soft answer turneth away wrath. I love that. So Whitney says here, this highlights a practical and powerful tool for resolving conflicts using gentle, calm responses. This principle is especially relevant in family settings where emotions can run high and conversations can quickly become heated. How we respond in moments of tension can either diffuse or escalate the situation. A gentle answer refers to responding with calm and intentional kindness, even when we're provoked. In family conflicts, it's tempting to meet anger with anger or criticism with criticism. However, this only adds fuel to the fire. Instead, a soft, measured response can disarm the other person and shift the tone of the conversation from hostility to understanding. This might involve lowering your voice, choosing your words carefully, or responding with empathy rather than defensiveness. For example, if a family member brings up a sensitive or controversial topic at the Thanksgiving dinner table, you might be tempted to react with frustration. Instead, try responding with grace, acknowledging their perspective and steering the conversation in a more positive direction. On the other hand, a harsh word stirs up anger. Sharp, critical, or sarcastic remarks can escalate a disagreement and make reconciliation more difficult. During family gatherings, we must be mindful of our tone and language. We need to choose to be gentle, not harsh. Harsh words often reflect underlying bitterness or frustration, and they can quickly turn a minor disagreement into a full-blown argument. By choosing gentle, thoughtful responses, we contribute to an atmosphere of peace and mutual respect. I love that. And number 5, love covers a multitude of sins. For this, he quotes 1 Peter 4:8. Let me go there. And above all things, Peter says, have fervent charity among yourselves, for charity shall cover the multitude of sins. I think that's he might actually be quoting Proverbs 10:12, which says, "Hatred stirreth up strifes, but love covereth all sins." I think Hal might have pointed out Proverbs 10:12 yesterday. But Whitney writes here, she says, this important principle for resolving family conflicts is rooted in the power of love. The Bible teaches us in 1 Peter 4:8 that love has the capacity to cover offenses and sins, promoting forgiveness and reconciliation. In family relationships, we often hurt the people we love the most. We need to remember this truth. Love each other deeply speaks to the depth of commitment God calls us to have for one another, especially in our families. Love is not just a feeling, it's an action. Loving our family is a choice to prioritize their well-being, even when it's difficult to do so. In the context of conflict, love compels us to seek understanding, offer grace, and pursue reconciliation. Rather than holding on to hurt or seeking revenge, love covers a multitude of sins, meaning that when we love deeply, we are willing to overlook offenses and extend forgiveness. This does not mean ignoring wrongdoing. Instead, it just involves recognizing that love is more important than winning an argument or proving a point. When we prioritize love, we're able to see past the flaws and mistakes of others and work toward healing and unity. So she says, as you gather with family this Thanksgiving, let love be your guiding principle. Choose to love each family member, even the ones who are difficult to get along with. When conflicts come up, respond with love, allowing it to cover the offenses that might otherwise divide you. Love has the power to transform relationships, heal wounds, and create a lasting bond of unity in your family. So she ends it by saying family conflicts are inevitable, but how we handle them makes all the difference. So this Thanksgiving, as you gather with your family, remember the biblical principles that God has given us for resolving conflicts well, by seeking peace, listening carefully, speaking gently, forgiving freely, and loving deeply. We can honor God in our relationships and create an atmosphere of unity and gratitude. May this Thanksgiving be a time of healing and reconciliation in your family as God's love flows through your lives together. I'd love that. Whitney Hopler. That's just fantastic. Well done, Whitney.